We've heard the tale of musicians finding composing, but our guest today says that composing found him. We're going to talk about that and so much more today on The Fly Filmmaking.
Welcome to Popcorn Talk, featuring movie discussion, news, and interviews. Popcorn Talk. We talk movies.
Hi, everyone. I am Mary Lou Mandel, your host today on The Fly Filmmaking, and every day. I don't know. That's why my name's on the sign. I'm the host. We don't rotate for this one. But I've got a really awesome guest today, Scott Doherty. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me.
Fabulous composer, musician, rock star, badass. We've learned all sorts of stuff. We've learned all sorts of stuff just in our little chat right before the show, which I love.
Revealing.
Yeah. So before we get started, let's tell everyone where they can find you on social media.
Social media, Facebook, Scott Doherty Music. Instagram, The Barking Squid.
The Barking Squid.
Yes.
Oh, okay. I want to know about this.
How to describe a singing multi-instrumentalist.
Oh, that's fabulous.
The hands.
You are creative.
It was
I'm
just the
excited
imagery.
to talk to you.
And what else do we have? Twitter, Scott Doherty TBA.
And that's
be
the
announced.
Barking Squid. Oh, no.
Twitter.
Oh,
It's TBA.
TBA.
Yeah.
That's not the Barking Squid. That's not it.
That Instagram is the Barking Squid.
Yes.
And I
TBA.
should have one name
Yeah.
for everything.
It should be like Scott Doherty TBS as the Barking Squid.
It took me a while to...
What's TBA?
TBA is to be announced.
To be announced.
It's, when you would go to clubs. So I was really, reluctant on the social media. Just
I could tell. It's really little different identity everywhere.
Yeah, as I move forward, I realized, you can have some more fun with your names. But the TBA was actually an inside joke against myself.
Okay.
When I was coming up playing in different bands, I first moved to California, was a teenager, and I kept seeing this band on all of the calendars that said TBA.
Yeah.
I didn't realize it meant to be announced.
Yeah,
that
but
they
you're like,
hadn't
this
booked a
band is everywhere.
I said, this band must be the greatest
They're
thing
about
in
to
town.
blow
I gotta
up.
go see them.
They book all the time. That's brilliant.
So for Twitter, it's my own, making fun of myself.
Yeah, that's really brilliant. I would love to see like a little short film or something that was chronicling the rise of TBA from like a fan's point of view.
Why hasn't someone done it?
Let's do that.
Yeah.
Shh.
Yeah, just
Don't take it. We're
confuse
making this
them
movie.
all.
Scott and
It'd be
I,
horrible.
we're producing this. We're definitely producing this. Awesome. So you now currently compose music for television and film.
Correct.
Yeah. So that is something that we've talked to definitely a few different composers that all work differently and all have kind of gotten to where they are in different ways. But the origins always start in music, which is really great, and like creativity and things like that. So I want to talk first about the projects that you're working on right now. So most notably right now, if you've been doing the music for Orange is the New Black for, was it now 6 seasons?
Just started writing for the 6th season.
That's amazing. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah, and
Thank
that's a show that if you haven't watched it yet, it's on Netflix. It's amazing. And that was one of the first big hits on Netflix, wasn't it?
Yeah, we were the 3rd release, I believe. I think it was House of Cards, 4th release. House of Cards, then Hemlock Grove, Arrested Development, then us.
Yeah, and we just talked to the composer for Hemlock Grove, too.
Oh, fantastic,
Yeah.
fantastic.
Yeah.
It was wild. We, I found out that Netflix was going to be doing TV shows on the streaming network. And they had, I think Lilyhammer was already out, but it wasn't part of their official branding. And so we just didn't know what would come of it.
Right.
And I was working with a different composing team at the time, and there was some hesitation, and definitely got the comments of, what are you doing, working for Netflix?
Yeah.
And then the success of House of Cards, obviously great show, start getting great feedback. And then, Arrested Development, Hemlock Grove were well received, and started thinking, well,
maybe this is
maybe
a thing.
this is something.
And now it's definitely a thing.
Yeah.
And I remember when the online network started happening, and I was working with a group of people who were like trying to start a production company. It's like, we need to produce content that's meant to be online.
Yeah.
And they're like, no, TV. Like, we need to make TV and movies. I was like, no, we need to make TV and movies, but just know people can binge watch it, make it in a set, release it all at once, because we were already watching things on DVD box sets all at once, like sitting all day, ordering a bunch of pizzas.
And then came the cell phones.
Yep. And then you take it with you everywhere. Yeah. And now it's huge.
Yeah.
It's great.
It's mind-blowing. I mean, it was the little show that could for me.
Yeah, that's so great. And then I want to talk later when we get into production details about producing it. Like, if you produce it all at once or episode by episode, but we'll get
Sure,
into
sure,
that
sure.
a little bit later. The other projects that you are working on, you just finished up a documentary about Kevin Aqua.
Yes,
Yeah.
it's called Larger Than Life.
Yeah.
It just premiered at the Hampton Film Festival, and then it's going to be at the Doc NYC Festival in a few weeks.
Yeah.
And just a brilliant story about a brilliant human. And,
Yeah.
became friends and got to know the producer and the director through working on another project, and they took the leap of faith. The project
Yeah.
we had worked on was more of like a rock and roll,
Yeah.
gritty New York soundtrack, and I said, I want to do something beautiful for this film.
Yeah.
I want the music to represent
This
Kevin's
person.
artistry.
Yeah.
And
if you guys don't know who that is, he is a makeup artist that was very big in the 90s, so worked with all of the supermodels. Like he created like the faces of the supermodels.
And rock stars.
Yeah.
And like he worked with Janet Jackson and Tori Amos and Barbara Streisand and
Yeah.
Jewel. And
And when I was I would go to the bookstores and I would find his books. He
The
had
Art
these
of
books of
Makeup.
making faces, making faces and face forward, and I would just sit there and like I learned how to do makeup from looking at these
Yeah.
books, and I was too young to be wearing makeup.
And that was his intention, was that he didn't want these secrets to be secret anymore.
Yeah.
He wanted everyone to know how to find what they thought was beautiful.
Yeah, and like as an artist, he was really great, and he was an activist, and he was very openly gay
Yep.
before it was fashionable to do that.
I remember seeing him on House of Style on MTV
Yes, House
at
of
that
Style,
time, right?
yeah.
Todd Oldham. And so it was just, between the people that were involved, the characters in the documentary, and in what he had done just for the world and for the
Yeah.
LGBT community, for so many reasons I wanted to be a part of
Yeah.
it. So I had talked to the producer and went with my composing partner, Will Golden. We sat down for lunch and we just told him, like, we promise it's not going to sound like this other show. We had
Right.
ideas. We wanted to use a string quartet and use some other synths. And grateful they trusted us, and all worked out.
Good, yeah. Oh, I can't wait to see that. That I'm very, very excited about. And then also recently there was a pilot that's come out called The Holdouts,
Yes.
which I watched the trailer of that, and it's amazing.
It's so
I
good.
cannot wait to see it. So we're gonna watch a little
I
bit of
know.
this trailer,
Yeah, for sure.
and then check that out.
Excellent.
I have always wanted to get a drink at this place. I mean, like I've read about this place.
Oh.
We are now closed. Thank you for having us for the last 92 years.
What the fuck?
It's gonna be a Chipotle. I like Chipotle.
CBGB's, Mars Bar, Joe's Diner, Blatt Billiards, Cedar Tavern, McHale, Kenny's Castaways. It's all gone. They won't be happy until this whole island is one big Dwayne Reed with a Starbucks inside and an IHOP inside that and a Bank of America inside that.
I got drunk with Joe Franklin in this place.
Hey, don't get bummed.
I'm gonna drown myself
No,
in
no,
that
no, no,
puddle.
come.
Where are guys like us supposed to go?
Where are you?
I found a new Brooklyn, man. I'm in Croton-on-Hudson. Where have you been? Read the papers.
Croton-on-Hudson?
I got a pool, I got a house, I got a French toast joint down the street. The place is unbelievable.
I don't really eat bread.
I got fresh farm eggs here, huh?
Hello?
So great.
Hold on,
Like,
wait, I
I
can't hear
cannot
you.
wait to watch this. I really think that this is going to be something that I'm going to enjoy. And like Kevin Corrigan's just fabulous to watch.
And the consummate New Yorker.
Yes.
And-
like that is the guy
yeah.
that I want telling this
Oh, he's-
story.
it just- yeah.
And he just won an award for best actor for this one.
Yes, it was at a Denver television festival.
Yeah. So great.
Oh, it was great. It was great. And we got to go there and be there and be supportive. And it's just the greatest crew of people. But that was where we did the more gritty music. It's not us in the trailer for
Right.
it. And it was, they loved what we did. We loved what they did. But so different than the Kevin Aquan story.
Yeah. And has this show been picked up?
They're in talks with people.
Okay.
I'm not
I really hope
really
that it
liberty
gets
to
picked
say,
up.
but
All right, but
me
we're gonna put it out
too.
there in the universe.
'Cause the trailer is great,
Yes.
but the pilot is just slays. It's so good.
Yeah.
It's so good.
And it's such a good story. It's very timely. And like even here, like living in LA, I find that sometimes too, where I'm like, oh, like it's just all chains now.
Yeah.
And like I can't even afford
Yeah.
to live in
Well, that's
the bad part of
the
LA.
creator Stephen Giersulo. He has lived in New York since he was born and raised.
Yeah.
Jace Bartok, who's the other actor with Kevin Corrigan, also born and raised in New York, and so was Kevin.
Mm-hmm.
So, they had been friends, and Stephen wrote this amazing script with Kevin in mind.
Yeah.
And it's so true to life. And so now it's more relevant than ever. There's a kind of a landmark preservation society in New York that they've been working with, where
Yeah.
they track all of
Oh,
the
that's
restaurants and bars
great.
that are closing. And
So then, like, I would imagine the series then is like to these real places that are getting shut down
Yeah,
or changed into something else. Or,
yeah, it definitely comments, especially in the opening. You see all the different bars that have been
Yeah.
shut down, and you just don't want to lose the essence of a city.
Yeah.
Like, you know.
Like things need to grow and develop, but then also,
Exactly.
but you know, like, a little tangential, but when the cities are coming up and they're building like all of these bars,
Yeah.
those people who are in the community then are probably like, what is this riffraff?
Yeah.
What is this craziness? And then it becomes
Hey,
iconic.
Things do change. Change is inevitable, but I guess it's how you change.
Yes.
With grace, with class. That's
Right.
what you hope
Like,
for. you
just
know.
like just thinking a little bit about the history of things.
Yeah.
So good. I think that that's
balance.
wonderful that that's getting put
I
out there.
cannot wait till it comes out.
Yeah.
It's so good. It's
Good.
so good.
Good. And then you, as far as like getting to this point,
Yeah.
you're a musician and you do more than just composing. You sing,
Yeah.
you play guitar,
Yeah.
and you also play piano.
Play piano.
And, like, everything,
play
right?
bass, yeah.
Yeah.
It's funny. I just do all that for composing now,
Uh-huh.
and that's been just in the last few years. But I work all of those things into score.
Yeah, that's great. Well, we've got a clip
Okay.
of you playing House of the Rising Sun, which is one of my favorite songs ever. I love it. So we're going to
This-
check that out.
Yeah, this is a. I can let it roll and talk after.
So you had mentioned to me that this was just somebody was filming it in the audience and
Yeah.
like captured you doing this.
And sent me an email like a few days later and said, "Hey, I caught that last song." And it was such a gift.
And
you
what was
know?
what was the event? Like, what were you doing?
It was
here?
a show I was playing at the Hotel Cafe.
Okay.
I had fronted a band for 8 years and had taken some time away from that, and then I thought maybe I want to try it again.
8 years in a band.
And,
Can you say what it is?
Yeah, no
No?
one needs
All
to
right.
know.
Okay, that's fine. Backstreet Boys.
It was
No,
a great
I'm kidding.
band. It was a great band. But so this was years later, and I had written just a bunch of songs, and as just a solo artist.
Yeah.
And I just felt compelled because I suddenly just got this writing bug. Like the muse was just screaming at me, and so I said, "Well, I guess I should book a show." And so this was the first show. Just back as a solo artist, just as my
Yeah.
name. And it was the end of the night, and I saw that the Hotel Cafe's got this great piano, so we just decided to wing House of the Rising Sun.
Yeah, just on the fly. You said that you just asked them, like, hey,
Just
can you
the
guys play
band
this?
members, yeah, it was a great group of guys.
Yeah.
And you know, it's a song everyone's, I would hope, fairly familiar with.
Yeah.
And so that, yeah, they just killed it. And it was one of those just magical, great energy moments. And so
Yes.
the fact that he had that cell phone video of it, I was just, so happy.
Good, good. And then they reached out to you and gave it to you. And
Yeah,
now
yeah,
now it's
yeah.
floating around the internet
Yeah.
for us to use.
Well,
Awesome.
the secret's out.
Yes. And then you've been in bands, and that you said like from connections and people that you knew ended up into composing.
Yeah, well, for years, just being a musician in LA, I mean, I was always asked to do something for something. You know?
Yeah.
So I mean, I think even back to my early 20s, I remember someone asking me to write a song specifically for a show that was on Lifetime. I didn't think much about it
Yeah.
at the time, but I had always been exposed to film and TV. I had, most of my friends when I first moved to LA were actors and writers, and I'm a huge film and TV lover, and so you know, I would just kind of dip my toe in the water a little bit, and then I was about to put a band together again. So
Okay.
I had the band I was in, I did the solo project, and then I met these two guys that I just really liked what they were doing musically.
Yeah.
And so we got together to have a meeting. It was a friend that said, "You need to meet this producer." So we talked for about an hour, and we quickly realized we didn't want to be in a band. But we
Yeah.
really liked each other. We liked
Okay.
where we were coming from musically. So he said, "Well, you know, I know a music supervisor over at this network, and I knew someone that had I'd just done some work on a documentary, and she was a music supervisor. So we said, well, how about we be a band that does music for TV?
That's a brilliant concept.
Or it's the dumbest thing
Or
ever.
awful.
Yeah,
but you know, you think like starting a band at all can be brilliant or awful.
But we just had this vision that we would be operating like doing a record, but instead we would do it for shows.
Right. And is this your team that you work with for Orange is the New
No,
Black?
this was
is a
before
different
that.
one. Okay.
Yep, it was a
so
group,
you've done this kind of thing a few times then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I enjoy collaborating.
Yeah, it's good.
You know, I do work on my own, but I just think it's always great to if you have musicians that you're fans of, is to bring them into your world.
Yes.
And you know, it's reactionary scoring off of each other, off the picture. It's just great.
Oh, good.
Anyways, that's neither here nor there. But so this group we called American Matador.
Okay.
And the next day, I was actually back at the Hotel Cafe, and I immediately ran into the one music supervisor that I knew. And she was no longer doing films and documentaries. She was now at a network. And she said, you know, what are you up to? She goes, I'm just working at this place now. And I said, actually just started a band that does music for TV shows. She said, what are you doing tomorrow? I said, well, what am I doing tomorrow?
For you.
Hopefully.
That's brilliant because you like put it out there like, all right, fine, let's try this.
I couldn't believe it. I called the guys up from the club. We met that night, and we spent all night long putting a demo together, and we beat out 8 other seasoned composers because they said we sounded the most like a band, and that's what they wanted.
They were looking
the producers,
for that thing.
And we had no idea that's what they were looking for, but they said it sounds like it came off of a record. So that was the start of getting into scoring.
Yeah,
full-time.
which is so great, and that's something that I like try to talk to creatives about a lot when they're like, "Well, I want to do this thing, but I don't do that. I don't do this thing that way." You know, and I run into that myself sometimes. But this just goes to show you that there is a place for the thing that you do.
Yeah.
You know, the thing that you do doesn't
Absolutely.
have to be like what other people
Well,
do.
at least to get you in the door.
Yeah.
And I think, you know, once I did that first show, it's luck. You know, I've always been told luck is when preparation meets opportunity.
Yes.
This was a lot of luck because the production company that hired us, the vice president, turns out went to high school with my partner. And they didn't know until we went into our first meeting.
What?
And they were friends. They hadn't seen each other in a long time. So he said, I didn't know that you were scoring. He said, yeah, that's what we're doing. So he said, well, why don't you do our next show? Why don't you do the next show? And so we scored probably 8 or 9 shows, or contributed music sometimes for their production company. I mean, it's just unbelievable.
fantastic.
But what I was saying is that you might not think you are the person or you have the skills, but once you get your foot in, you can learn.
Yeah.
And so I think through that confidence of realizing, you know, I'm doing season after season of these shows, well, how do I become X type of composer? Or how do I learn this? And it bought me time.
Yeah, that's great because you're already in there. So now you're like, all right, now I've got a little bit of wiggle room to try and figure things out.
Exactly. And suddenly you give yourself permission.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because you've got the confidence, like, I don't have to worry about booking the gig. I booked the gig.
Yeah.
Now let's execute.
And that's my whole musical life has been that way. I'm
That's
just like
great.
tumbling along.
Oh my gosh.
Really lucky, but it is that preparation and the opportunity. I mean, if anybody is generous enough to ask me to do anything musically, I'm going to go above and beyond.
Yeah.
You know?
Oh, that's so wonderful. And I'm like, me and my hippy dippy friends are like always talking about manifesting things.
Yeah.
And you said, let's do this in this way with these kind of people. And the next day, it shows up.
It was literally the next day.
That's wild.
And the Hotel Cafe has a velvet painting of a matador in their back hallway leading to the restaurant.
Do you name it because of that?
No.
That just happened to be there?
It was just
You were
that,
some magic. I'm just going to hang out with you because the force is strong with this one.
Well, I've had downs too.
Okay.
Just like everybody else,
Right.
and defeats, but you always learn. And
but
I think that's the thing. You can say that you're willing things to happen or that you're just allowing things to happen.
Yeah.
I think sometimes I'll talk to younger composers or younger musicians and they get tunnel vision. And it's like the band that just says, until we get a record deal, that's it. Nothing's worth anything and life is terrible unless it happens. But you never know what else could possibly happen.
Right.
You
And then
know?
we've heard that tale with a bunch of the different filmmakers and composers that we've had on the show where they maybe were aiming in one direction, but they allowed and they gave themselves room to explore and try different things, and ended up somewhere wonderful.
That's what unlocked the door.
Yeah.
I realized years ago that I just want to afford to play music.
Yeah.
I said, if I just keep my affirmations as broad and wide as possible, then I'm not going to really be let down.
Yeah.
So it's like,
wide net.
Yeah.
It's a wide net of possibilities. That's so great. So then let's chat about like some specific production stuff. So like with Orange is the New Black, you are now working, it's Brandon J. and Gwendolyn Sanford.
Yep,
That's
husband and
your
wife.
team.
Yep, composing team. And they had done the show Weeds on Showtime, which is how they met the showrunner, Genji Kohan.
Yeah.
And when they finished Weeds, they knew that Genji was developing a new show. And they, just finished 7 seasons of a show. They had had a new baby, just had moved, and they were just overwhelmed and kind of searching for how this new sound was going to develop. And we had all played in each other's bands through the years. They knew that I was now scoring. And so they said, do you want to come over and just talk about this show?
Yeah.
And so I went over and I said, what are your thoughts? And I said, well, this is what they're asking for, and these are some of the references they've given us. I played piano for a little bit, showed them some ideas. And
do you know what some of the references were? Do you remember?
well, Regina Spektor was one of the
Right.
big ones. Genji's a huge fan of Regina Spektor.
Yeah, and you can
we
tell
knew
that like through the opening
Yeah.
song.
Yep.
Yeah.
And so we had that piece of information.
Was
They
that
were
song already in
thinking,
place? You've
I
Got
don't
Time?
remember if it was. I don't think it was at the time, because I remember when we saw the intro. I could be wrong.
Okay.
There's so much has happened.
Gotcha. I know. It's a long time and been a crazy ride.
But I remember, talking to the music supervisor. They threw out, like Tom Waitsy, Carnival, just really. We weren't sure at the time what prison was going to be like. So we were thinking the sound of prison, like the literal sound, like the sound of metal, the sound of, these reverbs that mimic concrete walls and just hollowness. And so those were the thoughts. But I had just started playing some piano, and this is what my instincts were for a sound. And my partners said, just keep playing. We're going to walk outside for a minute. And they came back 5 minutes later. They said, do you want to be our partner in the series? And I was,
That's
yes,
amazing.
I really do.
Yeah, and then as a team, then you're going through and composing. So now, we're 6 seasons into this, and we know with a Netflix show, they release it all at once. It's not the same as a week-to-week show that you would release on television. Even so, they do that online sometimes. But like Orange is the New Black is all at once. So in that process of that being released, where do you guys come in?
Well, it's usually, I think we're about 3 or 4 episodes behind. So it's similar to a network or a cable, but it's
Is it
not
faster,
that week
slower?
to week to week. The first season felt the same.
Okay.
I think I just remember we were 7 days,
And then
a
to the
week
next
for
one.
months, and
Yeah,
just
I had a
went next,
suspicion that they would
next,
still
next.
produce it in the same sense because that's just a formula that's worked. They just don't have to release it all in that way.
And it's changed a little bit now, and which gives us more time, and well, it gives us more time off.
Yeah.
I just remember that
Okay.
that first season was just, and it's the first season you're discovering the sound of a show, and you're coming up with themes for characters.
Yeah.
But I think they were about 3 or 4 episodes ahead. And it's the same schedule. We go in on a Thursday for a spotting session, which is where we watch the episode with the producers and the writer and the editor, and they've temped in music, and then we discuss what we like and what we don't like and what's working and what themes might be able to still be used. And we have about 5-6 days to do all the writing, and then we meet after that for a music review. So it's still a very small window. The difference is that you don't get any audience feedback.
Right. Because now it's just all out there.
Yeah.
So there's no adjusting later in the
All
season. It's
13
just like,
episodes you've
great.
done, and
we will decide after the season if
Yeah.
this is working or
Yeah.
not. Oh, that's interesting.
So we had done 13 hours essentially
so much music to
of
make.
music, and they created 13 hours of a story
Yeah.
that we had no idea.
Right, because you kind of could approach it like a movie, but it's like many movies.
Yeah. It is similar to scoring a 13-hour movie.
Yeah.
Because you have to think that way. Netflix was really helpful in the first season. I think they had kind of that forward-thinking knowledge where they had a few notes on the music, and they said, we don't want to interfere, but just remember that nothing's forgotten after the first episodes. We assume people are just going to keep watching.
Right.
And we didn't.
Right, because it's like, who does this?
Just gonna sit down for 13 hours and watch a
Everyone.
show. I do.
Yep. Sit there. It's so great. Like this weekend, I know that Stranger Things is coming out. I'm like, Saturday, you guys are not going to see me.
But it was the best advice. And I remember they had asked if we would consider tying some threads on a few character themes. And I remember Genji saying, if you want to do it, go for it. If you don't, we have your back.
Go. Okay. So you kind of had that freedom to like explore that as an option.
And we did it. We said, if this is,
like
if you know this is going to happen, I mean, that's what you do.
Yeah.
It's like, it's a service job.
Yes. I'm here for you. Let me create for you in the way that you want. And so I really like talking with the composers and learning about these like character suites that that I think all the shows end up having. And are there any that are particularly your favorites?
I liked Suzanne's Crazy Eyes, her themes, because she had so many wonderful flashbacks.
Yeah, that's definitely the one that stood out to me, where I was
and
like,
they would
yes,
make
I
their
love her
way
stuff.
back into prison. So we'd always have to find a way to establish the flashback as its own thing. Not sound like prison,
Right.
and
Yeah,
then
you're
also
basically
be able to
scoring
bring
two
it
totally
back
different
into prison.
stories.
Yeah, we just kind of rough it up a bit.
What?
Yeah.
So next level.
Porn Stash was one of my favorites.
Yeah.
So we were sitting in the meeting, and the music supervisor, we were just deciding, what does Porn Stash sound like?
Yeah.
And he's like, sounds like a Kawasaki dirt bike.
Yeah. That's great. And I love this.
All right.
Like the process of like, okay, we've got a character. What does this character sound like? And it's a thing that maybe not a music person, but they want. I get what a Kawasaki dirt bike is.
Yeah. I know, and I think that's where like language, it's great when it goes beyond musical terms, and it's great, especially working with people in production, that it can't be, I think he sounds like a D minor chord.
Yeah.
It's not
I
gonna
don't know
work.
what that is.
No,
It makes no sense to me.
And I think it's, the more outlandish the suggestion, the challenge is good, but it also usually will click. Like immediately
Right.
I heard a sound in my head when he said
Good.
that.
And because you're collaborating, what you hear is that might be different than what one of your partners hears that, but you put it together and it's like extra full.
Yeah. And sometimes we will be in a room together and work on a theme. Sometimes we'll divide and conquer.
Okay.
But it's, I think we can tell through each other's enthusiasm, because now we try to work together as often as we can.
Right.
But we can tell through each other's enthusiasm when we have an idea, if it's, I got it.
Yeah.
I trust it.
Yeah.
And if it's, well, let me think, and it's naturally we've allowed each other to have space in that way.
Yeah, and it's great, and you do it both ways, like where you said you do it by yourselves and then sometimes on this team.
Yeah, especially the first couple seasons, there was a lot of, I would go back to my studio and just work, and then I'd go over their place, we'd all work together.
Yeah.
And then, my partner Brandon would stay up and he would work. It was so much work to do on that show, because
Right.
there's so many characters.
Yeah.
And so to establish a sound, like we established the sound of prison, but in that first season, the score's really dense. We just threw everything at it, but then realized that, when you're working with themes, it's less can be more.
Right.
You don't have to work that hard. It's about the melody that you're using, or about those identifiable instrumentation. So that worked itself out after the first season, but there's some cool music in that first
Yeah.
season. And so I think Netflix's comments really helped.
Okay.
I think that really registered for us.
Yeah, what kind of stuff did you get back?
Just about the themes.
Okay.
Just there was a few characters that they felt could have a thread, and then we just unlocked it for us, because with the flashbacks, you're also looking to establish time periods, so we try to, if it's in the 80s, we're going to bring out more of the synth into the episode. If it's in the 70s, that kind of thing. But it wasn't obvious at first to us. We were so focused on this sound of prison.
Right, because when you get like the concept of Orange is New Black, it's like women's prison and women dealing with being in prison.
Yeah.
So yes, of course, that's where you're going to go first. But then when you start to actually get to know the show, it's about characters that happen to be in prison for the main storyline. But then we're learning everything else that could be in any part of the world, any time period.
And I think they were adjusting too to, I think some of the characters, I don't think they had planned on having much more of a story for them. But then whether it was the actress or actor was so incredible that they became more featured. So I think it took that first season just to see for all of us where it was going. I won't speak for them, but my assumption.
Yeah.
And because at first it was just Piper, it's like we're Piper's being used as this vehicle to allow us to
she just
identify and takes us into prison.
Yeah.
So that was the main character that we were focusing thematically, and then in just around her. But then as Crazy Eyes, as Pennsatucky, as these other characters started to become more major players, then it became a necessity to develop their themes.
Yeah, such a wonderful, and so you're discovering probably the same way that the Netflix execs people are discovering too. Like they were probably surprised, like, oh, actually, yes, let's give more of a thread to this.
Yeah, it was just a handful. It wasn't like we had to, spend weeks doing something.
But that's where client notes can come in, and I struggle sometimes where I'm like, why just let me do my art, and then you get it, you're like, no, you're totally right. Yeah, let's do this.
It takes a while to learn that because you feel like your art is your baby, and they want you to change your baby. It's my baby. But I think notes are the most thrilling things to get because you still want to preserve your voice, but you have to find a way to do both. You have to find a way to honor the note, and usually the note is spot on. It might not be apparent at first,
right?
Whether it's the language that someone's using or just your perspective. You haven't allowed yourself to look at a scene in that way.
Right. It becomes so close because you've decided this is how I see it, and then it is hard to shift out of it. Where you're like, well, I've already made a decision. It's there already.
Yeah. And so I remember that was one of the most important things to learn as a composer is there's no bad notes.
Yeah.
Because it's really easy. Yeah. Especially we're coming from the rock band world. It's easy to get combative.
Yeah.
Not that I ever was, but you have those thoughts.
Right.
You have those thoughts of the letdown of, I thought it was perfect.
Yeah.
And now it's the other direction. Now I assume everything is going to be, scrutinized and hated, and people enjoy it.
Oh, good.
But it's that you shift because you understand that you cannot get inside someone's head. They can give you, initial input what they would like. But it's still not. It's never going to be specific enough where you can get things guaranteed perfect every time.
Right. Yeah.
So it's nice. Like I like the note process. I like when you get to dig deeper. And,
What kind of tips do you have for creatives at home that are maybe just starting to be in an industry where they're getting notes?
Yeah.
And they're trying to adjust to that.
I would say keep your language really simple. I think sometimes people try to dwell on the specifics of why something is not working, and instead make it more broad. I would say don't take it personally.
Yeah.
It's never, because it's a job as a composer is to help tell the story, and it's also to be a team player.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not our story that we're telling,
Yeah.
We're helping to tell the story.
Right.
So it's like being of service. But also, it'll take sometimes 5-6 tries, not often, but there are the cases. I know with the Holdouts, we were looking for the main character's theme, and the director gave us great notes, and we misinterpreted them. He had given a reference of a certain musician, and that had put an album out in the '60s, and it's like a rock and roll thing, and so that's what we assumed it was. But he was thinking about this other period, and he was going through.
Yeah.
So the first 3 or 4 passes, we were clinging to this.
Yeah.
So I think you have to be able to ask questions too. You have to be able to know what to ask of a producer or a director if you feel that you're not getting it right, but asking questions that aren't going to be confusing.
Right. And then something that I've started to learn and be able to execute is not necessarily holding it until it's a version that I feel really solid about. If I'm unsure, like I'll show them something that's a little unfinished and be like, hey, this is unfinished, I just want to make sure we're on the right
Just
track.
to get some feedback, exactly.
And then that just
So smart.
helps so much more because now like they feel involved and you're like, you get some validation of like, okay, cool, we're on the right
And
track.
you
Or
have a
like, oh, it's
starting
totally
point.
wrong.
Yeah.
Great, let me make it right.
Oh yeah, because there's nothing worse than you've spent all the finishing time and labored over something, and then to find out that you went the wrong direction.
Yeah. I've definitely like gotten to things where I'm just like, this thing is great. I'm gonna send it. It's just gonna be perfect. They come back and they're like, actually, and I was like, okay, all right. Yeah, I should have showed you earlier.
And that's natural when you're first starting off on any TV show. I mean, you have to find the voice of it. And I know we had more time at the start of Orange with the pilot, where we were allowed to first just send a bunch of music in and just listen. And then with the pilot, I think it was like 2 or 3 weeks we had to do it, which was fantastic.
Right.
And then right after that, it became
And then it goes.
5 days.
Right. Because it's like 2 to 3 weeks. It's like, ooh, that's luxurious.
But it is a great idea to sit if you can get a rough scratch of something, or if there's reference material. But sometimes even then, you know, you'll still chase around and you'll have to send 6 scratches. You know? But once it's right, you know it's right, and everybody feels good about it, and that's what you want.
And then, the collaboration is really good. And so it seems like you work really well collaboratively within your own team and with the teams that are hiring you.
Yeah, for sure,
which is
for
good.
sure. Yeah, I just, I've. It's funny. I try to just be really happy.
Yeah, I can see that.
But at the same time, when I'm working, I'm very serious about it. You know, but I don't think, it's like I can't ever take myself too seriously. It's like I look at it, like I said, it's a service job. You know? I want to have my voice. I want to, try my best to make everything really authentic emotionally. It's like whether or not I'm feeling like the muse is talking to me that day, I still have to show up and do my best work and have it be inspired. But it's, I write a lot of music that's like, sounds more horror, sounds darker.
Yeah.
So when I meet people and they're like, I'm not sure if you're a guy, I play them some music. They're like, why are you so happy? Your music is not that way.
Because it's expressing itself in different ways. Yeah.
I don't know. I think it mostly comes from gratitude.
Yeah.
I think
it's a good way to be.
There are far worse things to be doing, and I got really lucky being able to play, music every single day of my life.
Yeah.
And
so now you're playing music every single day. Do you get to play with any weird instruments? Like, do you have any like really out there things that you've made music with?
I have friend studios that have those.
Yeah.
I just had this friend of mine that's a well-known musical glass player, and his name is Doug Lee, and he's kind of my go-to guy when we need the strange things. I'll pull out odd things, but it's more like pots and pans kind of thing. But he creates all kinds of incredible instruments that are based either with glass or with metal, and I just used him on the Kevin and Kwan documentary, and I had upright bass player that I asked him, phenomenal upright bass player, and I said, I don't want you to play any notes with your fingers. I said, I want you to bow. And
neat.
I said, and I would love to see just how distorted you can make it. Because he would run a take and he would say, no, I'm sorry, there was some noise. I said, actually, that's what I'm looking for.
That's what we want.
It was a painful part of the documentary.
Okay.
And it involved, physical pain. And so I was trying to have this kind of juxtaposition between these two instruments.
Right.
And if you bow lightly on any stringed instrument, you get a harmonic, which is kind of a higher frequency above the note. It's pretty shrill. And I had the glasses, which are beautiful, but again, you can get shrill tones out of them. And so I know lots of musicians in LA, and luckily there's really creative bunch.
Yeah. So let's chat a little bit about then how it was different composing music for a series than this like documentary that's a movie. Was it all at once? Are you getting scene by scene?
The documentary was all at once.
So they give you a cut of the movie?
It was a cut, but it was still a rough cut.
Okay.
So we knew things were probably going to be changing. We caught them in the 11th hour. And I think we had about 10 days to do the film. I think we had 29, 30 pieces of music for the film. So it was, we knew what we were getting into.
Yeah. And you did that one as a team?
That was with my partner, Will Golden.
Okay.
Who I also did the Holdouts with.
Right on.
And yeah, we worked together for the entire process on that one. We had 2 studios. It had my studio, and then we had him set up a little mini studio.
Yeah.
And
You said how many pieces of music?
it was about 29, 30.
Yeah. And then so how are you breaking that up? Are you looking thematically? Like one piece of music can be used multiple places, or like that one piece of music is just the opening?
You want to do what's right for the picture.
Right.
And I think, thematically you're going to hear versions of of certain characters' themes and certain aspects of Kevin's life as a theme. But there was an overall evolution and I guess arc to the sound. So we're starting in Kevin's childhood and it tracks him through his whole life. And so the music definitely starts more small, more innocent, more happy, and I don't want to give anything away about the film, but it does start to develop darker tones and gets bigger as the film moves on, and it's called Larger Than Life. So we knew,
you
at
had
some
to
point in
aim
time,
for-
it's got to be a bigger score.
Yes.
So there were themes, and they evolve, but there was definitely like just a longer arc for the whole. It's like one long evolution until we get to the end, and that was that pressure for those last few moments of just making sure you're doing it justice. Because
Right. 'Cause
documentaries,
this is a real life thing.
Exactly.
It's like different than a narrative fun story where the pressure, I definitely can feel that.
Yeah.
You're like, you want to honor this person's life, their legacy, their family.
Yeah, exactly. It's so many moments where you want to make sure that you're not over dramatizing things and that you're uplifting in the right way, because I kept thinking about his family.
Yeah, last thing you want is somebody's auntie who's like, been healing over this, and they watch the movie and they're like, oh my gosh, really?
Yeah.
It should be like awful.
Yeah, how would I feel? It'd be terrible.
Yeah. No, you want to be like, oh no, that is how I feel.
Yeah, we had wonderful feedback from everyone at the production company, and I think when you have 10 days to do a film, you don't have a lot of chances to redo or to do pre-production so you just have to pick a voice and a sound and go.
And go for it.
And by the end of it, once we had it mixed and turned everything in, you just have that feeling, what did I just even write?
Yeah.
So we got the the emails and from New York, and everyone was just floored with the score. And I just remember looking at my partner, I was like, let's go back and listen to it. Let's see what we did.
What did we do? See, and I love hearing that stuff. Like you scored this movie in 10 days, very crunch time, and like I will toil over like an edit on an Instagram photo for 10 days.
For 10 days. I know.
And it's like, no, you just got to make it. The pros are making movie music in 10 days or less. So
well, sometimes the best stuff comes out in a short period of time because you don't get to overthink it, and it's just shooting from the hip. But I get it. I mean, my early moments in scoring, I wanted to be so precious about every moment and polish it and just make sure it was perfect. But you realize once you get on certain productions, there's no room for that,
right?
And so you start learning a new way to work and new tricks, and that's where a lot of background work really helps. If you have downtime in between projects, that you're researching sounds and you're finding new instruments or meeting new musicians, and so that when you do get into those situations, you've already had ideas that are being generated.
Yeah. So what do you mean by background work?
Well, for the first few seasons of Orange is the New Black, I was still doing sessions with bands and still, kind of trying to live both lives. And then I realized how in love with scoring I was. Yeah. And how many ideas I had. So I just started finding education wherever I could. Yeah. Whether it was
what are some resources
studying
that you have?
some other composers. YouTube's one of the best.
Yes.
I mean, it's the internet itself is one of the best.
Do you have any channels or outlets specifically that you've liked to go to, or you just like
all
search?
over the place. I mean, I think it's a combination of music-centric searches, but also looking up, documentaries about filmmakers or behind the scenes on films, because knowing all aspects is great.
Yeah, watching
and
shows
knowing-
like ours.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then sound creation. I started, learning more about orchestral composition and then developing my own synth sounds and started collecting vintage synths. Just it's kind of coming at it from all sides,
Right.
And that's what I mean by that, like that background work. It's just that you don't take a break and then go vacation. You
Right.
know, it's like you want to be ready for that your next project, that your toolbox is that much more full, or that your voice is that much more rich.
Yeah.
And now it's a compulsion.
Yeah.
It's really hard to
No,
stop.
definitely. Like, yeah, as a creative, like that's how I am. Like I work full time with that. I was like, okay, I'm going to take some time off to go work on some personal projects, and they're like, people are like, what are you going to do for vacation? Where are you going? I was like, I'm going to make art projects.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm going to go to the desert and do photographs with smoke bombs and
Yeah.
burn myself.
Yeah, and try
'cause I
out this
wanted
new
to try it
gadget that
out.
I got for my camera.
Yeah,
and-
I'm gonna go fly my drone
Yeah.
and go practice that, because
But
it becomes a compulsion where you're like, I must do this.
Yeah, and that's where I don't know, for lack of a better word, that's where greatness comes from.
Yeah.
Because it is, it's no longer about doing it for the ego of it. Do it for money. You're doing it because you are compelled
Because
to
you
create.
must.
Yeah.
You have no other
Yeah.
option.
Yeah,
Also,
absolutely.
do you have some technical tips for people who want to get into music composition? Like any instruments they should learn, or programs that you suggest they go after?
There's always that great debate of what's the best program to use for scoring, and I think it's, from what I've just talking with people, it's what you feel comfortable with,
Right.
what inspires you. It could be the easiest thing. I've always said it's not what you use, it's what you do with it.
Yeah, definitely.
But there is a company that I absolutely adore. They create samples, and I almost don't even want to say it because I want them to stay small and unknown.
there's a secret.
No, Spitfire Audio in London.
Okay.
I love how they present their instruments. They find the most unique instruments to sample. They do incredible orchestral libraries, and they're these two guys that run this company in London that are both composers, and they know what we all want as composers, and they're hilarious. They find new
that's
ways.
wonderful.
They put out an email the other day that looked like it was accidentally sent from partner to partner. And it was a forwarded message.
Yeah.
And I knew right away.
Right.
But at the same time, if you were new to the company and you had just signed up their mailing list, and what it was a conversation about a sound they had just created, and him, the other partner
That's
saying
so
how
clever.
thrilled he was to get
Yeah.
it. And at the very bottom of the email thread was the download link for the new sound sample for free.
Yeah. That's
so
fun. That's a
they
really
get
good
it.
way to present that. And then they sound amusing and entertaining.
Yeah.
Along with being
Yeah.
able to do the
Oh,
music
they had
that you
one
made.
that was like an Area 51, this kind of alien thing,
Yeah.
and it's not gimmicky. It's there, once in a while. Let's just
Yeah.
get some. There's an artistry to it, but
What was the resource again?
Spitfire Audio.
Spitfire Audio.
Yeah.
Audio.
And they have a section where they offer plugins to composers that are, I guess, the conversion in dollars would be like $3 each.
Okay.
It's probably about 20 or 30, but all proceeds go to UNICEF.
Oh, wonderful. Yeah,
It's
it
a
sounds like a really,
win-win for
really great
everybody.
company.
They're great.
Yeah.
They're one of the best I've ever. I wish all companies would model themselves
Yeah.
after Spitfire Audio.
Cool. So then, for your journey, is there anything that happened along the way that you wish you would have known earlier that you can share with people as advice?
Wow, there's a lot.
Yeah.
Um,
Which is like really interesting because sometimes people are like, "Nope, everything was the way it was. It's great."
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I think I would have spent more time, just developing and learning how to have a unique voice.
Do you feel you have that now?
I feel like I'm on my way.
Yeah, right
Like I feel like I do, but I feel like it's you can still keep going deeper and deeper. But I guess, what I feel I do now is I show up all the time, and even if something comes to me easily, I will still take the extra steps to make it great.
Yes.
Like I'll never settle for good. And I feel like early on in my music career, not my composing career, but early on in my music career, I would settle for good because things came really easily, you know, for me in certain aspects. But I think that's where you need to push yourself more. If you feel like you're good at something, find out how to be great.
Yeah.
You know.
Find the next level.
Yeah.
Oh,
and
that's
I don't know
wonderful.
if that ever truly happens, but it was a regret that I had, I think, in my 20s, is that I've had a wonderful experience in my 20s playing music and playing with bands, but I just didn't think I knew that if you get to that place where you feel good and you push yourself even further, like, don't be afraid of being great.
Yeah.
You know?
That's good. I think that's really wonderful advice. And I'm so happy to hear that you set out on this mission to play music all the time. And now you do.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah, and I'm sure
wonderful.
it's going to continue to twist and turn.
Yes, yes. Well, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having
Really
me.
appreciate it. Tell everyone at home again where they can find you.
Facebook, Scott Doherty Music. Instagram, The Barking Squid. And Twitter, Scott Doherty TBA.
Awesome. Oh, and then I wanted to ask one more thing before we left.
Yeah.
Was I saw that you did a Reddit Ask Me Anything, and I've never done that. I don't understand Reddit.
Yeah.
I open up the website. I don't get how
Yeah.
it works.
I'm fairly new to it. It was fantastic. And I think
Yeah?
it's still open and ongoing.
Yeah?
So if someone goes to the Reddit, Ask Me Anything for Scott Doherty,
Yeah, you can get more information from you.
I'll answer more questions.
Awesome. That's so awesome. Thank you so much again for
absolutely.
joining us. Make sure you check out Scott's work, Orange is the New Black. And there is the Larger Than Life Kevin A Coin story and the Holdouts, which hopefully we'll be able to see sooner than later, because
Yep.
that I'm super excited
That's
about.
okay.
Awesome. And then I'm Mary Lou Mandel. You can find me all over the internet at Mary Lou Mandel. You can subscribe to my YouTube channel if you want tips and tricks for your digital content creation. And we will see you next time on The Fly Filmmaking.
From producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire Popcorn Talk Network, we would like to thank you for tuning in. For questions or comments, be sure to visit popcorntalk.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of the Popcorn Talk Network. The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of the Popcorn Talk Network or its owners or principals.